So now let us see the solution. I am copying a smaller version of the diagram here, and this is the Hall-Petch equation. Sigma y is equal to sigma naught plus k upon root d. Sigma y is the yield strength, d is the average grain diameter, and sigma naught and k are the two constants that you want to find out in the Hall-Petch equation. So the graph is given. This is the yield strength, this is the d raised to minus half. All is required is that you take any 2 points and find the values. So for example, at d raised to minus half value of 4, you draw a vertical line here and then you draw a horizontal line. So I will always tell you that please have a scale, right, so that you can draw a very exact straight line. Don't do it roughly by hand. So if you do it, then you can read that roughly it is 75 megapascal. Roughly it is 75 megapascal. Similarly, you can do it for 8. I am doing it for 12. You take 12, take it here and draw the horizontal line there. This value, it is 150, this is 200, this is roughly 175, right? So now these are the two values. So take the equation and put the values, this first value of 4 and 75, that sigma y is 75, yield stress is 75, sigma naught plus k upon root d, and 1 upon root d, right? 1 upon, this is d raised to minus half. So this is 1 upon root d. Root d is d raised to half, and if you take it up there, it is d raised to minus half. So, right, so 1 upon root d, d raised to minus half, the actual value is there. So 75 is equal to sigma naught plus 4 ky. So 1 upon root d is 4. So this is the equation. This is the equation for the point 4. For point 12, 175 is equal to sigma naught plus 12 ky. Right? So these are the two equations. Now, very, very basic simple math, arithmetic type of math, algebra type of math. You have two equations and you solve them. So if, for example, if you subtract, if this is equation 2, this is 1, this minus this minus this. So 175 minus 75, 100. Sigma naught minus sigma naught, 0. 12 minus 4, 8 ky. So 100 is equal to 8 ky. Right? So very simple. Just solve these two together. First find one constant, then find the other constant. So the constant ky comes out to be 12.5 megapascal root meter. Right? It is very important, 12.5 megapascal root meter. And when you put the value in the equation again, you get sigma naught is equal to 25 megapascal. Right? If somebody, because you see in the graph we have given megapascal on this side and KSI, kilo PSI on the other side. If somebody is interested in the inch pound system, then those values have also been calculated. But for now, for us, we were asking only these values. So KY is 12.5 megapascal, sigma naught is 25 megapascal. Again, the thing is that this is very simple, right? If you understand that this is a graph for Hall-Petch equation, so any point on the curve satisfies the Hall-Petch equation. So take any point 4 and find the other value, 12 and the other value, or 8 and the other value. If you are drawing the lines correctly, there can be only a small error of half, 1, this and that, but there cannot be error of 10, 12, 15 if you are drawing the lines carefully. So this is the Hall-Petch equation. This is the graph for the Hall-Petch equation. Take any points. For point 1, write the Hall-Petch equation. For point 2, write the Hall-Petch equation. You have two very simple equations, linear equations. You just add, subtract, multiply, this, that, find the two constants. And always, because this was millimeter, the value was millimeter. So millimeter is 10 raised to minus 3 meter, right? So be correct in the units. Don't mix megapascal on one side, millimeter on the other side. If the megapascal value is there, write 175 into 10 raised to 6 and so on. Okay? But it is up to you. You can directly use as I have done here. We have mixed it because this will not, we are not, right? We could have converted this into megapascal root meter. But I have directly written megapascal root millimeter because to calculate the final next one, there is no issue. We will directly use the same graph again, right? Otherwise, we could have converted this to megapascal root meter, not megapascal root millimeter. So now the last part, that now the constants are there. So at the given condition, what, right? So so this is there, that these 2 points are there already. These 2 points are there. And if now 2 into 10 raised to minus 3, if D is this, if the average grain dia now for the next part of the question is 2 into 10 raised to minus 3 millimeter, then what is D raised to minus half? This is D. So root of this and 1 upon that. So it will come out to be 22.4. Do you understand? This is D. Take the root of this and then do 1 upon that, right? Take the root of this number and then 1 upon that, it comes out to be 22.4. So this is now directly D raised to minus half. So that is it. So again, Hall-Page sigma y is equal to sigma naught plus ky D raised to minus half. And now you put the values. You know sigma y, sigma naught is 25, so put 25. Ky is 25, so put ky is 25. Ky is 12.5, so 12.5, and this value. As I said earlier, if you are directly using megapascal and millimeter half, then that was the equation that we found last time. So it is in megapascal, this is in megapascal, this is in millimeter. Megapascal, millimeter, millimeter. So you get 305 megapascal as the final answer. Right? So it was not a very tough question, and we had done questions about Hall-Page equation earlier during the lectures, and I don't know if we also covered it in some other quiz or exam and so on. But again, this question on Hall-Page equation, if you understand it very clearly, then really understand it well, then there is almost no question on the Hall-Page equation that you cannot solve on your own. Okay. Next one. This is now from the phase diagram and engineering alloys and so on. Define solidus, liquidus and solvus lines. One part. What is non-equilibrium solidification in alloys? Explain briefly. Again, right, you have done it earlier. Now if you want, you can do it again. If you are fresh in your mind, if you have already practiced for the final and so on, and now you are doing it, then your answers should be directly there. If not, then you can go back to your lectures and so on. So, right, it should be very clear. You see, at a time when you have finished the course, and at a time when you are practicing for the final exams and so on, or whatever, or even at a time when you have just finished the chapter on phase diagrams, but you have clearly gone through the lectures and you have solved all the example problems and so on, other problems, homework problems on your own, then this should be directly clear already. But let us see if you want to reinforce. Now this is the way I am defining it. You can have an alternate definition which will still be good. Liquidus, it is the line in the phase diagram on one side of which above is liquid and on the other side of which below is liquid plus solid phase, right? So any liquidus line, above the liquidus line on the phase diagram is liquid and below the liquidus line is liquid plus solid. So whatever way you say, you can say that liquidus is the line which divides the liquid region from the liquid plus solid region. That will also be okay, right? I am saying on one side is liquid, on the other side is liquid plus solid, or I am saying above is liquid, below is liquid plus solid. So you could also say that liquidus line is the line which divides the liquid region from the liquid plus solid region. But this is it, this is liquidus. Solidus, I am defining line on the phase diagram on one side of which or above which is liquid plus solid and on the other side of which below is solid phase. So again, right, if it is solidus, then on the phase diagram, if you imagine, above the solidus is liquid plus solid, below the solidus is solid only. So you can say that solidus is the line which divides the liquid plus solid from the solid region. This will also be correct. But it will be better if you use the word above or below. Above or below. Some people also define solidus, that solidus line represents the temperature which is the lowest temperature at which solidification is complete. Remember, liquidus is the line where solidification starts. Some solid starts to form. Solidus is the line that liquidus was above, right? And solidus is the line where complete solidification takes place. So if we go back to liquidus and solidus, we can say that liquidus is the line where solidification starts. If we are cooling the material, solidification starts. You can also say solidus is the line if we are cooling where solidification is complete. All the liquid is converted into solid, right? So there are different ways in which you can say it, and whichever way you say, if it is technically correct, then it is right. What is a solvus line? Line in the phase diagram on one side of which, generally above, is one solid phase, and on the other side of which, generally below, are two solid phases, right? So this is solvus line. Solvus line. On one side is one solid phase, on the other side there are two solid phases. Usually because we are doing binary alloys, right? Alloys which have two materials. So therefore there will be always two liquidus lines, two solidus lines, two solvus lines. On the left side of the diagram will generally be the alpha side. On the right side of the diagram will generally be the beta side. So the solvus line on the left hand side, above it will be alpha, below it will be alpha plus beta. If the solvus line is to the right of the diagram, then above it will be beta and below it will be alpha plus beta, right? But this is solvus, that on one side of the solvus there is one solid phase, on the other side of the solvus there are two solid phases. Excuse me. Now, non-equilibrium solidification. So I am reminding you, there is sometimes a small error, sometimes in a book, in one statement and so on the slide. So that causes a small confusion. But if I explained it to you and you understood the explanation very well, then you should be very clear. And if after going through the lectures and the video lectures and so on, if there is a confusion on this point, then either through emails or through the online sessions and so on, discussion sessions, you should clarify it. So I am reminding you that equilibrium solidification, which is generally at a very slow cooling rate, leads to homogeneous crystal structure. This is critical. Homogeneous means there are no cores. There is the same alpha beta everywhere. It is not that in some small places there is a hard core and the others are not there. Equilibrium solidification is at very slow and it leads to homogeneous structure. Non-equilibrium solidification is usually at a faster cooling rate. This leads to non-homogeneous crystal structure having cores, right? So the idea that equilibrium solidification gives cores is a mistyping. Non-equilibrium solidification, which is at a faster cooling rate, leads to cored structure, and if the cores are there, it is not homogeneous, it is non-homogeneous. And in the case of cored structure, the heat treatment called homogenization is done to remove the cores and get back a uniform or homogeneous structure, right? So this, even if you don't write it, is okay. But equilibrium leads to homogeneous, same structure throughout. Non-equilibrium or very fast cooling leads to non-homogeneous structure, which means there are cores. And if you want to remove cores, then you have to do the homogenization heat treatment, which will dissolve all the cores, and now the crystal structure will be uniform everywhere. So please, if there is a typo somewhere by the instructor or by the book, then read the book, read through the lecture notes, go through the video lectures and so on. If there is a confusion, ask it. But if there is a typographical error, it should say that non-equilibrium solidification leads to cores, right? So, right, don't read it as equilibrium leads to core.